The House has resumed. Members, the House is debating the Appropriation 2013-14 Supplementary Estimates Bill and the Imprest Supply Bill, first for 2014-15. Anne-Genter has the call. She has just over 7.5 minutes remaining.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Anne-Genter.
Mr. Speaker, we live in an interesting time. The world is changing and we need fresh ideas and modern thinking to solve old problems and to seize new opportunities. And the biggest change that we face, of course, is climate change. And before the dinner break, I mentioned that recently Lord Stern, the world's most authoritative climate economist, recently issued a stark warning that the financial damage caused by global warming will be considerably greater than the current models predict. So we have a stark choice here in New Zealand. We can either continue to do things as we have always done, in which case we will get more greenhouse gas emissions, catastrophic climate change, and that's going to cost us a huge amount of money. But it's not only that, it's a threat to the future of our children and their children. And unfortunately, this national government, with their budget, is definitely on track to continue the status quo. Their vision for New Zealand is stuck in the 20th century. For example, their vision for New Zealand is a few more motorways, which will just lead to more congestion and more pollution, more mining and drilling, an economic strategy that is linking us to increased carbon emissions in the future, right at the time when we need to be decreasing them. National likes to talk down New Zealand when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions. Little New Zealand, we're only a small percentage of global emissions, so we don't have to do our share. I have news for John Key. A group of 4.4 million people anywhere in the world would only be a tiny percentage of emissions. But in most parts of the world, outside New Zealand, 4.4 million people generate far fewer emissions than we do here in New Zealand. We're the fifth worst in the rich world per capita, and we're second worst in terms of the growth of our emissions since 1990. Now, that's down to a failure of successive governments through the 90s and the early part of the 2000s. But we're now on track to have a major emissions blowout, and that is down to the lack of vision from this national government. We know that the countries that embrace a low-carbon future first will enjoy the greatest benefits, the greatest economic benefits, social benefits, and environmental benefits of embracing that change. I believe that New Zealand can be a leader. We're small, but we punch above our weight. And the truth is that we have nothing to lose and everything to gain from greening our economy. And it just takes a few simple steps. How do we do it? Firstly, polluters have to pay the costs for the damage that they cause. If polluters don't have to pay, they will free ride on the rest of us. Now, that's just economics 101. If businesses are making a profit off greenhouse gas pollution or water pollution or any other type of pollution, they have an unfair advantage over those businesses who are responsibly trying to make a living. And that's not fair. That's why the Greens proposed the climate tax cut, which has been praised by a wide range of commentators. We put a price on climate pollution, but we give the revenue back to households and business. So polluters pay for the damage that they caused, but they, most importantly, have an incentive to clean up their act. Households and businesses get to keep the rewards if they save energy and reduce climate pollution. It's win-win. But it's not enough just to put a price on pollution. Government needs to be supporting business and itself investing in infrastructure for the future, infrastructure that's not going to tie us into high carbon emissions. For some reason, this national government is completely stuck in the 20th century, particularly when it comes to transport. Just when everyone else in the world was starting to realize that more motorways just cause more congestion, this government is throwing a colossal amount of money at a few expensive, uneconomic motorways that will only make congestion worse and increase overall transport costs to households and businesses. I don't know what the worst part of these motorways are. I mean, firstly, they're not going to reduce congestion. We know that. That's a fact. It's been proven all around the world. New motorway lanes don't reduce congestion in the medium term. Yeah, sure, you build the road, and for a few years, there might be a reduction in congestion. But if you make it cheaper and easier for people to drive, more people end up driving. And ultimately, there's no reduction in congestion. And you can look at any city in the Western world, anywhere in the Western world where they've put money into roads, the congestion reduction only lasts at best a couple of years. So it's a total waste of money. But the worst part is that it increased the overall costs of transport to the economy, because households and business without other choices are locked into the high costs of having to pay for vehicles and fuel to run them. So the motorways aren't going to reduce congestion, they aren't going to help business, they're not going to reduce carbon emissions or our huge $8 billion oil bill, which contributes to our current account deficit, and they have a huge opportunity cost, because that is billions of dollars we are not spending on the infrastructure that Kiwi families need to get around. The national government likes to say that the Greens are against everything. I have to say that is entirely untrue. We have been campaigning for smart, cost-effective solutions across a range of areas. A perfect example are our solutions for home insulation, which this government unfortunately has discontinued, but they did manage to insulate hundreds of thousands of homes. That was a green idea that not only had energy efficiency benefits, job creation benefits, but most of all, health benefits. So those are the kind of smart green ideas. The Greens would have been campaigning for the City Rail Link, which is the next essential step in completing Auckland's transport network. Where here we have practical ideas for the future that are not only going to look after the economy, but they're actually going to create a better planet and a better place for all New Zealanders, a fair society where all children have a go. We have practical solutions to address child poverty, to address some of the failures in our education system, and to build the infrastructure that's going to enable us to respond to the challenges of climate change and to have a successful future for all New Zealanders. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it's a pleasure to take a call on this, the appropriation.